I'd like to make you aware of a very unique strategy that can help you deal with social isolation, either for yourself or someone you care about. Now, social isolation is a close relative of many other conditions like loneliness, depression, grief. So I'm not pretending that the entire solution is as simple as the strategy I'd like to tell you about. But the strategy I'm going to tell you about can be one facet, an important facet that really boosts the likelihood of emerging out of social isolation and related conditions. And this is very important because social isolation has very profound health implications. Some people who study social isolation compare its health effects to that of smoking or obesity. In other words, conditions with very profound long-term consequences that can actually shorten your life and lead to conditions like heart disease, cancer, and dementia. And the situation has worsened recently because 1 in 4 people now live by themselves, which is unprecedented. Less than 50% of people are married anymore. Fewer people are having families and children. And the families we come from, have become fragmented. People move for work and things like that. And so the social situation has cultivated social isolation. And this is a situation that has real health implications over a long period. So what can you do? Well, I'm not going to talk about the psychological or sociological solutions for this. I want to talk to you about a solution that I've been using and seeing pretty spectacular effects with. And that is boosting the hormone oxytocin. So those of you who follow my conversation know that we make a very special yogurt. It's called Lactobacillus reuteri yogurt using 2 very specific strains. You must pay attention to strains when you're dealing with bacteria. To illustrate, you have E. coli in your gut. I have E. coli. Your family, your friends have E. coli. But what if you eat lettuce tainted by cow manure that contains E. coli of certain strains? You can die of kidney failure and sepsis. Same species, E. coli, different strain. Okay, so we have to be very, very particular about the strains we use for various purposes. So the 2 strains we use, and I'll list these below and the links to how to make the yogurt on my Wheat Belly blog. It's very easy, it's a lot of fun, and it's delicious. By the way, it's thick, rich, and delicious. But we make this yogurt. We tweak the process of fermentation by using prolonged fermentation, not the 4 hours that they use in commercial yogurt preparation, which is silly because it yields almost no bacteria. We use extended fermentation to generate much larger bacterial numbers, and we ferment in the presence of prebiotic fibers to feed bacteria and get bigger numbers. Done this way, you get something almost 90 to 100 billion counts of bacteria per half cup serving. We consume this yogurt, half cup per day, and it causes your hypothalamus and your pituitary to release oxytocin. By the way, some people have asked, how does it do that? Not all the details have been sorted out, but it's mediated via certain fractions of lymphocytes and also via a retrograde signal from the vagus nerve to the hypothalamus and pituitary. Because if you clip the vagus nerve in an experimental animal, it ablates the entire effect. But bottom line, oxytocin is released. Now here's another thing. Most people in the Western world had this organism, Lactobacillus reuteri, in their intestinal tracts up until about 30, 40, 50 years ago. And now most people have lost it. Only less than 1 in 20 people now carry this organism in their gastrointestinal tract. And this is the organism that's responsible for boosting oxytocin. Now, what does oxytocin do? Well, in addition to all the effects I've talked about in other videos and elsewhere, such as reduction of skin wrinkles, moister skin, accelerated skin healing, preservation of bone density, restoration of youthful strength and muscle, the so-called anorexigenic effect turns off your appetite. You're completely freed of impulse and appetite and completely in control of food choice. It deepens sleep. It gives you more vivid childlike dreams. In other words, it turns the clock back 10, 20 years or so. But I'm talking about now the emotional and social effects of oxytocin. You may have heard that oxytocin is the hormone of love. Well, there's more to it than that. Yes, it makes you feel closer to people, but it also encourages empathy. It causes people to understand what another person is saying or feeling. That's why they're using oxytocin, by the way, in couples therapy. Actually, intranasal oxytocin, not the yogurt. But oxytocin causes a desire for human connectedness, for human company. So people who are consuming the yogurt say things like this to me. You know what? I go up to strangers and talk to them. I introduce myself and talk to them, and I've made a lot of friends that way. When I met a group of people, I'm much more likely to say something and be involved in the conversation. I understand better what my spouse is telling me. I'm a better listener. I empathize more with the things my kids are going through, or my neighbors, or my friends or family. In other words, I think it's safe to say it makes you a better human. Now think of it. If modern humans have largely lost this organism responsible for oxytocin provocation, and we now have record-setting levels of social isolation, record suicide rates, record numbers of depression and loneliness, mass violence, gun violence, very contentious political discourse, how much of this can we blame on the loss of oxytocin? I don't know. By the way, that's one of the questions I'd like to have explored, and we're going to try to fund some of those studies. I can't do them, I'm not a psychologist, but we'll try to fund those studies because I think this is such a crucial issue. I think we've tapped into something that has the potential to really improve the social fabric of this country. Not to say, this is not so simple-minded as to suggest this will fix all ills. Of course it will not. It cannot fix social isolation, will not fix depression, of course not. But I think what it does, it's an additional strategy on top of other solutions that makes the solution easier, makes your likelihood of achieving success that much greater. And you know what? Yogurt's delicious and it's fun to make, and it's a great way to enjoy getting a wonderful probiotic also. So I should mention that also. Lactobacillus reuteri is also a very potent probiotic organism that, unlike most other probiotic species, colonize the entire gastrointestinal tract and provides massive protection against conditions like small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. But bottom line for this conversation. Think about the reuteri yogurt to boost oxytocin, and I think you'll find it better. You'll feel better. You'll feel less inclined to be isolated, more inclined to obtain the company of other people, and you'll be more empathetic towards other people, and I think you'll be a better person.